Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Hey, you held him to 20 points, man. You gave us a chance at the end. But I got 3 words for you. You like that? You like that?
Yes, and we like making predictions, much to our own demise here on Purple Daily. Daily Vikings entertainment, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. Later in the show, we will get into some of the latest roster news. So they set their initial 53 yesterday, and we did that episode. And then this morning, they started tinkering with their 53. They say hello to Myles Gaskin, Miami's sort of third down running back at times. He was their leading rusher for a couple years with like 600 yards in 2020 and 21. Didn't factor in much last year, but the Vikings signed Myles Gaskin, veteran running back, and they do waive and say goodbye to Jalen Reagor, which eliminates 2 of Declan's predictions for this week. He had to go back scrambling to the drawing board.
I'm still kind of scrambling, I'll be honest. It's going to be a play on the fly a little bit because I wrote down last night the Vikings will sign a running back in the next 48 hours and that the Vikings will waive Jalen Reagor. And Adam Schefter woke up this morning choosing violence against my predictions and has already just put those into the universe.
He's just going where the story is, Declan. He's just going where the news is.
Well, credit to your intuition and your radar, but unfortunately, those did not make it in under the wire, so you'll have to make some new predictions here. So the show is presented by our friends over at TCL, which is one of the world's best-selling consumer electronics brands. They have a new lineup of award-winning TVs delivering the most entertainment with stunning resolution, all at an affordable cost. Learn more at TCL.com. And a shout-out to our friends over at Underdog Fantasy as well. Underdog is back with Purple Daily here for the 2023 football season, Dex.
That's right. In fact, because the season hasn't started yet, you can get in on the season-long pick'em. So why don't you take the over on Kirk Cousins' touchdown passes? You love Kirk so much, we'll take those overs. You like Justin Jefferson? Take the over on receiving touchdowns. 8.5, come on, it's a gimme. Even Alexander Madison. Maybe ride the under. This might be an under one. 6.5 rushing touchdowns. That might be a little bit too much. Regardless, though, you can have all the fun you want. Underdog Fantasy, and when you use promo code SCORE, SKOR, for the first-time users. I know there's a lot of repeat users at Underdog Fantasy, but if you want to get in on the action now with us at Score North, use promo code SCORE, SKOR, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100. Go download the Underdog Fantasy app.
All right, here's how Write That Down works, gentlemen. So we offer up 3 Vikings or football-related predictions each week. All of us do that. They must be quantifiable and football-related. Those are really the only rules. We keep track of completion percentage and touchdowns. And if you want to be like Dave, listener Dave, and you want to participate, you can send Declan a message through the Score North app. There's a feedback tab, and we'll get you scheduled for some time here in the coming weeks. All right, let's start with the accountability session here where
write this down.
Judd is first out of the gate. Not a great week for you, Judd.
No, it's not. Ooh, the Trey Lance one, yeah.
You said Nick Muse will open. Well, actually, no, this counts. This counts because the second part of it. You said Nick Muse will open the season on a 53-man roster, but it won't be the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a technically, could he get waived? What was? I just copied and pasted this deck. So what was the verbiage from Judd?
I mean, you will open on a 53-man roster. That is correct, but it won't be the Vikings. So if the first one's come out, and it has, and it's on the Vikings, then this is incorrect.
Okay.
It's close enough because I don't think he's going to be... The only technicality would be if week 1 he's not with the Vikings, but he's with a different team, but I don't think that's going to happen. So we'll duke it out at that point in time if that long shot happens, but that's fine for now to come off.
You said the Vikings would trade for Trey Lance this offseason. They did not.
Mm-hmm.
You said the Broncos would fire George Payton before this season. They have not yet. So I guess if they do in the next 10 days, then maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know is George getting coffee for Sean Payton? Is that his job now?
So many Paytons over there running.
He's sure not running the team anymore.
Macadac had a nice little week here. Little week here.
Here you go.
We'll start with the bad ones here. Jalen Naylor will catch a touchdown in the third preseason game from Jaron Hall. Did not happen. I said N'Keal Harry would make the 53. He got injured. Even if he wasn't injured, he probably wouldn't have made the 53. He was, big, strong, run blocking, maybe red zone target wide receiver. However, I did tell you guys before the first game of the season, the Vikings will swing a trade and they will acquire a draft pick in said trade. Vidarian Lowe to the Patriots for a 6.
Very nice.
I said Jaren Hall will have as many or more turnovers as touchdown passes this preseason. He had 1 touchdown pass and 1 turnover. I said Wangu will make the 53-man roster despite everyone's doubts and despite the marginalized kickoff. And I told you guys that both Andre Carter and Ivan Pace would make the Vikings 53-man roster.
Very nice.
Nice week.
Just call me the roster whisperer.
I don't know if the Vikings were all that smart, but that's a nice prediction.
Well, it's a backhanded compliment. If I
Andre Carter only made it because of the payday.
Don't lash out because you went 0 for 3 and your
I'm not lashing out. I'm telling you, I was there. I didn't sweat my ass off.
You can't just cheer
day.
For your teammate. You can't just be happy for your teammate.
No, you know why? I sweat my ass off at training camp to bring you guys Judd's training camp notes. I give the Vikings the 53, and then they decide to go against it on a couple things. It's not making me happy.
Yeah, a lot of ego at play here, it sounds like. Okay, listeners had a pretty good week here, a mixed week, but ultimately good here. Nate said that Josh Sokol we'll start with the bad. Josh Sokol will be on the 53-man roster for the start of the season here. Maybe a practice squad guy again, Sokol?
Yes.
You got to have a guy whose name looks like Skol on your team.
Yeah, I think he'll be on the practice squad after 11 a.m. this morning.
Let's see here. Harry said Wangu will not make the 53-man roster. Tyler, you were close on this one, Tyler, but it does count. You said Jalen Reagor will make the 53-man roster. He was on it for 12 hours. 15 hours. And now he's gone, but he made it. And then this is a touchdown because not only did Alex predict that Andre Carter and Ivan Pace would make the 53, he also threw in Najee Thompson on a parlay, and they all made it.
That's a 99-yard touchdown.
Yeah,
that's not just a red zone screen pass, man. That's impressive.
And he said that at the beginning of training camp, by the way. This isn't like, I saw Najee Thompson flash in a preseason game. He said this early in the process.
Najee Thompson was on no one's list to make this team other than Alex's.
Nice job, Alex. And then a pretty nice week for the Dexter here. We'll start with a couple bad ones. You said Ty Chandler won't make the 53. You said Dwayne McBride will get more touches in preseason games than Ty Chandler. Chandler had like 1 more touch in the preseason.
I was going to say this had to be close.
Bad beat.
Yeah. And then we get to the good stuff here. You said Jaren Hall will start against the Cardinals and he'll account for at least 1 touchdown. He did both of those things. Andre Carter will make the 53. We said if this happens, it's a touchdown, so we're going to stick to that. That you said Nick Muse would make the 53-man roster.
Right.
As a 4th tight end. And you said, this one should have come off the board a few weeks ago. You said Justin Jefferson will not have a contract extension by the time training camp opens. He still does not have a contract extension. And then this one, I just want to bring to the attention of the audience that you're on the right track here, but we have to wait until week 1. You said the Vikings will sign a running back who is currently not on the roster, and he will be active on the 53-man roster by week 1.
Yeah.
I guess technically this does count because he's on it. You said by week 1, not on week 1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so he is active on the 53-man roster. So nice job. I don't have the updated stats for that last one, but you still lead in completion percentage, Declan, at 37.9%. You're now tied with me with 5 touchdowns, too, on the season.
Judd
has fallen from 2nd to last place in the completion percent. I'm at 35%, listeners 30%, Judd at 29.4.
You know what it's time for?
Whew.
It's time for some layups this week, boys.
Some little check down
Time
Judd
for
this week.
some big check downs.
The Vikings will score a point against the Buccaneers.
Yep.
I never know.
All-time stats, Declan's leading everyone here with 35.7% completions, about a percentage and a half point above Judd. I'm in 3rd, listeners 4th. I lead you guys with 38 touchdowns career. So there's the stats. There's the update, the accountabilities. Let's bring Dave in here, our guest listener predictor, repping the brand. that beautiful can of Surly Before I Die lager. What's going
Way
on,
to
Dave?
go.
Yep,
Dave.
it's delicious, just like Judd says.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can
Sports
get
Dad
Dave
knows.
to pound that and crush it against his head before the
Right
recording
now?
is done. I mean, we won't
Well,
stand in
pound
the
it,
way.
but don't crush the can. That can's a thing of beauty. That can belongs on a shelf now. Once
They
you're
are
done
beautiful.
with it. Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yes. So, all right. Well, we're going to go around the room 3 times. We're going to make 3 predictions. Before we do that, Dave, what is your background as a Vikings fan? What, when and what got you hooked in for the first time?
I'm about the same age as you, Mackie, and KOC, by the way, a few years younger than both of you, but mid-90s, 98, all of it. And parents, grandparents were all Vikings fans, so we've been suffering for a long time, but I love the mission statement, and I love that we're going to get one before we die, so.
Yeah, let's get it. So, all right, well, we'll start with you, Dave, and we'll go over to Judd, Declan, and then back around to me. So you're under center.
Write it down.
Fire
You like
away.
writing things down.
What's your first prediction?
All right, I'm going to go with a little parlay, I think, here. So Mr. Reagor was just released. He will be signed before next week's. Write that down. The Vikings will complete another trade before their week 1 opener. And the new running back, Myles Gaskin, will get 10 or more touches in week 1.
Oh,
That's a touchdown for you.
I think,
Yep.
yeah, for sure.
That's one prediction.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Going-
All right.
Love it,
Going,
dude.
You're not
going
screwing
right off the
around.
bat. No,
No.
I came prepared. Notes, paper written notes.
Drinking before I die, taking names. I love this. I'm very, very proud of you, by the way. This is your lifestyle today is something that everyone who watches this show should shoot for, Dave. I like this.
Days off are great.
All right. Write this down. Kene Wongwu, who made the 53, and as of right now is still on it, will not be on the active roster when the regular season begins.
So he won't be on the 53.
He's going to be placed on IR. Yes, he's not going to be on the active roster when the regular season begins. The Vikings are going to find a way to stash him.
And you did say he's going to be placed on IR. Is that part of the prediction?
No, because
Or-
I don't want to get burned by the potential that they could do something that is even more not surprising, but something that's not IR. So I'm just going to say he's not going to be on the 53-man roster on opening day.
Okay. All righty, Dex.
All right. I'm going to make a end of the season prediction. Very rare for me here. I'm going to put one out down the line. But write this down: between Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, TJ Hawkinson, and Alex Madison, at least 3 of them will have 1,000-yard seasons. So between those collection of 4 guys, at least 3 of them will have 1,000-yard seasons. I think Jefferson's obviously a lock. Hawkinson should be there. KJ and Alex Madison, I'm not sure.
Are we talking all-purpose receiving
talking
and rushing yards?
All purpose. Yep.
Just
all
mostly
purpose.
for Madison's sake. You know?
Yes, all purpose, but yes.
At least
Between
3
those
out of
3.
4. That would be. I think that'd be a nice little offensive season for the
Write
boys
this down.
if that happened. All right, I'm gonna. This is probably a check down here, but Myles Gaskin is going to catch at least 1 pass for the Vikings in week 1. All right, he's going to come in. I'm not quite going 10 touches like our guy Dave is going here, but he's going to have at least 1 reception in week 1. I think, by the way, he grades out like historically pretty well as a pass protector, as a receiver of the football. He's got like almost 100 career catches, or maybe even more than 100 career catches. So still a third down guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Get on the field.
I think 7 receiving touchdowns in his career, so he can definitely catch some touchdowns.
Yeah. Put that ball in the end zone. All right, back to Dave for your second prediction.
Write this down.
All right, since we're lacking in the the touchdown version, I'm going to say go for another touchdown here. I'm going to say the defense at the end of the year will rank in the top 20. The team will be the top 10 for turnover ratio, and Kirk will throw for plus 4,000 yards.
Okay. And then on that first one for top 20 defense, are we going just scoring points per game, or do you want to go yards? Okay.
Let's go scoring. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I love it, man. So So Dave has made 6 predictions tucked into 2 parlays. Right. This is, if you want to get on here and make more than 3 predictions, this is how you do it. You parlay the bleep out of these things.
Write this down.
It's because he's fueled.
Not checking down today.
Fueled by
Garrett?
Before I Die changes everything for Dave. Dave's life has changed.
That's right. Jaron Hall throwing the ball down the field in preseason 3 there.
Love it. All right, write this down. Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah will use the words difficult or tough in their press conference Thursday to address the roster cuts. So both of them, so not just one of them, not either or, but both of them are scheduled to speak to the media at TCO tomorrow. We will get the words difficult or tough from both as they discuss how difficult it was to go from 90 to 53.
Okay. You might have to track that. Although they do post a transcript, so I can just do a little control. I'll do a little control F.
Yep. I'll be very disappointed if that check down does not come true.
So difficult and tough. I could see them kind of going through saying these decisions are not easy. These decisions are I don't know. Those are 2 pretty good words. They're probably going to use those words. It's a good one.
It's always difficult to cut
Write
guys.
this down.
Very tough decisions.
We're now working at Cub. This guy's going to be he's going to be a great caddy.
Your unnecessary shots at football players. Transitioning to us normal people are
guys
kind of
that try
unnecessary.
to play pro sport. You know what though? Guys that try, we treat them like they're grade school. Oh, it's so. You know what you're getting into? It's football.
What if every August, every person in the Minnesota media thing was just on a chopping block and you just had to be cut?
You
would like that?
Judd would prefer that, actually.
I don't think that's a terrible idea, actually, if we could arrange for it.
Judd would be really good with that, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Actually, Judd's just a coach. He's not even in media anymore. He's just a coach. He gets to make those decisions.
But I'm gonna back Declan here. You are extremely unnecessarily unkind to football players.
But here's why. Because I hate hearing.
They're humans. What?
I understand that, but I hate this time of year when it's like the end of training camp's always so tough. The majority of these guys, if they are sincerely surprised to be cut, need a reality check so bad. Like there's a couple of guys on each team where it's like, that's rough. That's rough. But like if I'm guy 83 and my dream died, I probably didn't deserve to have, if it was an 80-man roster, I wouldn't even be around.
Yeah, but it's not. But it's not an 80-man. If it's a 30-man roster and guys play both ways, then sorry, KJ Osborne, you don't have a job. Like, get over it.
I just find it annoying that we are so down in the dumps about such obvious. Schleps like me know who, for the most part, is going to be cut. So, are you telling me that Allen Ali was really? Oh, I can't believe I got cut. I never saw it coming.
It's calling out Allen Ali, just unnecessary.
I'm using him
just so you know, Allen Ali is not a professional football player, and his family needs to know it.
On the practice squad again.
God, you're so callous.
Write this down.
Okay, are we on Declan? Where are we at here? Declan.
Yeah. That was a fun little rant. All right, write this down. I had to audible for one. So Vikings have a tough start to their schedule, face a lot of good quarterbacks early. They got to play Jalen Hurts. They got to play Justin Herbert. They have to play Patrick Mahomes. So those first 5 games. So I'm going to say the Vikings, write this down, will win at least 3 of their first 5 games.
That'd be a good start.
That'll be a good, solid start.
It's a great
start. If you're 3-2
schedule.
after October 8th against the Chiefs, things get a little easier for you, but that'll be their toughest stretch is 3 of probably, you can say, the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL that they'll play talent-wise, but they'll be 3-2 after their first 5 games.
Yeah, don't stumble early against the Bucs. Go take care of business.
Please.
Even if it's ugly, just get through the first game.
Write this down.
See what happens. Okay, write this down. I think the Vikings are going to make at least one more trade or signing before week 1, or I guess claim. They're going to make one more roster move that involves a player coming onto the 53-man roster before week 1. I'm going for some completions here, as you can tell, going into the season. I think, and just to off the record, I think it could be. I still think they could add an offensive lineman. It wouldn't shock me at all if they did add a Dalton Reisner before. If they thought we got to do this right now, Probably more likely after week 1, but we'll see what the waiver process shows too.
Write this down.
Are there crickets in Dave's backyard right now? You guys hear
Did we
crickets?
lose Dave? I do hear. Did we lose Dave? Dave, you got us?
Dave, can you hear us?
Oh,
Dave
no.
can't.
Oh, no.
Let's put
Dave
Dave
can't
in
hear us.
we'll put Dave in the green room. It was
It
Dave.
It does sound like crickets. I don't think it's those cicadas are the ones that make like the loud expanding sound that like just carries. I don't know what those were.
That's
though.
like sunset time stuff.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
That doesn't sound like morning crickets, which I don't know what they sound like because I don't think I've ever heard crickets in the morning. It sounds like a sunset deal. Anyway.
Do crickets not make noise in the morning?
Birds chirp.
I hate a bird chirping.
You might be right about that.
I don't remember hearing crickets. I mean, I might be totally wrong here. Believe me, I'm not a cricket expert, but I don't think I've ever heard crickets in the morning, unless he's in a. I don't know. I'll stop there. Just don't know.
Do crickets chirp in the morning?
Let's try.
That's what
Dave
we
again
want to
here.
know. Okay, Dave, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
There we go.
Can
Okay.
you hear me? Yep. All right.
You're cutting in and out a
Yeah,
little bit.
you're cutting it
crickets
out. Maybe we have
terrible.
just enough juice here for you to make your final prediction
All
for
right.
us, Dave. So fire away.
All right. JJ will be the top favorite by week 1.
Oh man.
We get it?
Oh. Okay, Dave, can you type? Here's what we have to do. There is a comment section on our production thing. Can you just like type in your prediction?
I got
Let's
it.
let's put Dave in the green room. Leave him there, and we'll see if we'll come back to him. Because I'd like to get it, if he wants to thank people, we got to get to that part in the show.
I think we might be lucky to get the last prediction from Dave.
Well, he'll
That
type
really
in
went
the
haywire.
comments.
It really
get
went
there.
haywire. Real haywire.
Hey, before we get to our final predictions here,
Write this
I'm
down.
gonna write that down, Judd. Let's tell the audience about that glorious can that Dave had on the screen for the first 20 minutes of the show. That's Surly Before I Die Lager.
Write this down. Surly Before I Die Lager is everything that this show is about. And also, you as a Vikings fan, it's everything that you are about as well. Available now in bars and also at your local liquor store in 12 packs now. That's right. They're up to 12 packs. Before I Die is just one of many delicious beers. Personally, Before I Die is a favorite. I also, of course, enjoy the flagship beer of Surly Brewing Company. That would be Furious. But write this down. If you need a beer to quench your thirst, Surly has something for you. I can guarantee that is a touchdown pass.
Wow. That's right. Throw a touchdown pass to yourself by drinking a can of
Brad
Before
Johnson's done
I
it.
Die Lager. He has. Just
Brad
did he throw it
Johnson
off the
was-
back of like a guard's head or something?
I think so, against Carolina, right? Back in the day at the Metrodome.
Yep. Dove into the end zone. Also, hey, we launched on our website here. So we've got the scorenorth.com/shop, and then there's the merchandise wing, which you guys are familiar with. That's where you can get your Before I Die hooded sweatshirts, t-shirts, your Victory Monday. We got some other stuff we're about to launch too. But then there's a collectibles wing too you can click on, thanks to our friends over at Universal Sports Auctions. And there are some really cool memorabilia items here. By the way, promo code SCORE at checkout to save 10% on all products site-wide. The most popular thing so far that we have seen that you guys have bought is the Justin Jefferson Spotlight Catch signed and framed photo. One-handed catch in the middle of the entire Bills defense. There's also a signed Justin Jefferson jersey, Jordan Addison, Harrison Smith, KJ Osborne. There's all sorts of amazing signed, verified items here. There's a Kirk Cousins signed and professionally framed custom jersey for all you Cousins fans out there. So check it out, scorenorth.com/shop and click on collectibles. Scorenorth.com/shop and click on collectibles. All right, I'm gonna read Dave's final prediction, and then we'll pop him up on the screen and see if we got enough reception for him to say goodbye. So he says, write this down.
Write that down.
Justin Jefferson will be the top paid wide receiver by week 1. Oh, and then he puts the thanks in here too.
Yeah. Read the thanks.
Okay. This is me being Dave. Thanks to my wife and children for putting up with my obsession with the Vikings and your show. Thank you, gents. Sorry for the tech.
Write that down.
It's okay, Dave. We'll get you on again sometime.
Good stuff, Dave.
Dave came in and made 7 predictions with his
Yep.
3 trips around the room. That is max efficiency. It's great
Agreed.
stuff.
while also helping us with sponsorship.
Yeah.
That's
MVP.
a guy that's a good teammate.
That's a
Selfless, if you will.
Great listener right there. Listener Dave. Thanks for coming on, man.
All right, write this down. I'm going to jump on this while it's hot. The Arizona Cardinals will win 3 or fewer games this season. They are doing exactly what the Bears did. They are dumping everyone that they possibly can. Like, if they see a productive vet, they're like, oh, no.
Au contraire.
You're not going to be here. It's exactly what the Bears did at the beginning of 2022. It's absolutely genius because they're looking at like Tampa, and they're like, Tampa Bay sucks. How can we suck worse?
But didn't the Bears start 2-0?
I think the Bears might have won their first game, but the Bears did the exact thing here where they, if you recall this time of year, they started to trade veterans on purpose. And it wasn't because those guys sucked. It's because they were too good. So 3 or fewer wins, the Cardinals will be the Bears. And that will give them the ability to either take Caleb Williams with the first overall pick, which is what I think they'll do. But it also gives you that Bears possibility, if they decide to stick with Kyler, of trading back. That Caleb Williams pick is going to be worth its weight in gold. Now, I don't think I would trade it personally, but if they do, like if they go back to 8 or 9,
right?
Can you imagine the haul?
Mm-hmm. I think if I'm them, I just take Caleb Williams.
Write this down.
And beg that he changes my franchise. But yeah, they'll have some options for sure. It looks like Dex.
All right, write this down. I've made the point that I'm a little bit buying some Washington Commanders stock this year. I took their over on their win totals on another prediction. I saw Ron Rivera talking up Sam Howell, that he wishes he would have just started him earlier because they probably even could have been in the playoffs last year if they had started him and not the disastrous Carson Wentz. So write this down. Speaking of the Cardinals, the Commanders have the Cardinals in week 1. And Sam Howell will have a passer rating of at least 100 in week 1. Write it down. Sam Howell.
I love how Ron Rivera has just come out multiple times and been like, I don't know what I'm doing. The Eric Bieniemy thing. He used to be a great head coach.
Yeah.
And then like the Bieniemy stuff and now the Sam Howell stuff. Like, I didn't even know he was good. Like, what?
Well, it's the way he phrased it too. He was like, yeah, you can ask my wife about it. You know, I was talking about, it's like, how would we know about what you talk about with your wife, man? I don't know if like that's how we knew Sam Howell was really good. I'm
still not buying that too.
Yeah.
In fact, he might be fired in season. I would be shocked by that.
He's got to be pretty high up on. Plus, there's
the new
winds of change are blowing in that franchise right now, for sure.
Winds of change.
All right, write this down. My final prediction here for the week. This is kind of random, but I am speaking of teams that are likely going to be in the mix for the number 1 overall pick. The Indianapolis Colts are a train wreck. So Jonathan Taylor's going to be out for 4 weeks. They couldn't find a trade partner. Yet Jim Irsay is being Jim Irsay. And they're just going to run one of the most raw young quarterbacks, super talented, but raw, and just throw them into the fire with a bad supporting cast. And I think it's going to go haywire. So write this down. Anthony Richardson will have at least 12 turnovers through the first 5 games. So he will average more than 2 turnovers per game in the first 5 games. Okay. Is that a touchdown if it hits? Because that's like
a lot of turnovers.
40 turnover pace for a season.
It might be, but I feel like you just painted a bleak picture of why it's very, very possible. I feel like you undermined yourself by explaining to us how bad this whole thing is going to be.
Unlikely that a guy would
I'm
turn
just
the ball
telling
over
you,
12 times in 5 games.
You just got up and said, my client, guilty as hell. But let me tell you
let me read you the prediction. The Indianapolis Colts, one of the heritage great franchises in this country.
Yeah, no.
A franchise with multiple championships and a legacy of great quarterback play. Anthony Richardson will turn the ball over at least 12 times in the first 5 games.
No, Mr. Skirmish. Yeah. No, Mr. Skirmish. I'm not buying in anymore.
It's not that. What do I have to do to make it a touchdown? Does it have to be 13? 100? What's your line?
100 would be
how many times would a quarterback have to turn it over in 5 games before it's a touchdown on this show?
I would say 3 per, so 15.
15.
But that's insane. That is
it's insane. Well, if it's insane, don't do it.
That's a 50 turnover pace for a season.
Listen, the Colts are going to be one of the worst teams of all time. Anthony Richardson is absolutely screwed. So write this down. He's not going to be the man.
You guys have set unrealistic bars for what's a touchdown.
You brought Skirmish to the table. We'll never forget.
Schefter sniped
and
two of
guess
my
what?
predictions,
There were
and I
multiple
audibled.
skirmishes.
We'll never forget. We never should have allowed it. I knew it at the time. We should have said fight. Instead, we said skirmish.
If the audience in the comment section on YouTube, Purple Daily YouTube channel, overwhelmingly supports that my prediction should be, or maybe the audience can tell me like what should the number be, then I would like to reopen this case. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So anyhow,
move the strike.
Hey, those are the predictions here. Just real quick, your overall thoughts on Myles Gaskin coming in here probably as the number 2 running back, I'm guessing, and then Jalen Reagor being the first guy booted from the island.
The Gaskin thing really intrigues me because of one thing. It's clearly a Brian Flores thing. Like, he coached him. So it's interesting that the DC, who was a head coach, is actually clearly weighing in with the head coach, who is an offensive guy. I'm not saying it's bad. It's probably good. I also don't know. So is Myles Gaskin the answer as like a third down guy, or is this a trial run, which it could be? Again, you can find backs. That's the thing about this. They are available all year long. Like, you can switch them up. Madison is the guy. Behind him, things can be switched up. But as far as the depth thing goes, yes, they had to add one, which is why I think that Wongwu, when he's eligible to be placed on IR without having to sit out the entire season, is not going to start the season on the 53. The Reagor thing is also intriguing because of this. And again, Kwesi is a work in progress, you guys. There's a lot of things that we don't know. But the Reagor thing intrigues me because the Vikings made 2 trades around this time a year ago. They picked up Reagor for a couple of draft picks from Philadelphia and Ross Blacklock from Houston. And I think they swapped picks there. But anyway, both players were cut now. And Reagor, they still have to pay. And they clearly, according to Ian Rappaport yesterday, tried to shop him and trade him. And I'm guessing that they were just trying to get like a 7th-round pick back, and they couldn't. So it's intriguing to me that the GM made 2 trades. And look, I'd rather pull the plug and say we were wrong than to try and be stubborn. But you would like to think that those type of deals would work out to where like one guy the next year can make the roster. But as far as the decision goes, I'm not surprised. I think Brandon Powell is not going to be as dynamic as Reagor ultimately might have been if he had reached his maximum potential. But I think Brandon Powell is not going to screw up. And it's hard not to have the wrong routes. And I know he had a full offseason in the program, so it might have been different. But it's hard to go back and watch the picks that Kirk threw because Reagor ran the wrong routes and not say, that's the type of thing you can't afford.
Yeah.
So,
it's really telling that a guy that was drafted ahead of Justin Jefferson, that you have now 2 different teams, organizations who have said within 4 years, he can't play. He can't play. I mean, look at the guys he's not beating out. The Vikings kept 5 receivers ahead of him, including Jalen Naylor, who didn't practice for a month and has done really nothing substantive in his NFL career. And then Brandon Powell, who's also just kind of a, just like a trinket sort of special teams player.
And don't forget, too, in the last 2 playoff games, including the one with the Eagles in Tampa Bay a few years ago, and then the Giants game last winter here, Jalen Reagor, who is a punt returner, has muffed 3 punts. Because he actually was pretty damn good as far as not muffing punts as a Viking until the playoffs. And that's another thing, too. Like, the reliability factor there was he's not worth the risk. Like, if he makes plays, it's not worth the risk of running the wrong routes when Kirk Cousins trusts you, which is a bad thing. And B, 3 muff punts in 2 playoff games is a major, major red flag problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Myles Gaskin, on the other hand, does intrigue me a little bit. So I'm not saying he's going to be like a bell cow who overtakes Alex Madison. And there's going to be, I think those guys are going to take series. And Madison, not the greatest third down guy. I know that was kind of his role sometimes with the Vikings, but Myles Gaskin, 26 years old. He was a 7th-round pick out of Washington in 2019. And according to Pro Football Focus, he does grade pretty darn well in both pass protection and catching the ball. And as a runner, so for his career, he's only like 3.8 yards per carry, which is where Madison is the last 2 years. So neither one of those guys are going to be replacing peak Dalvin Cook in terms of just being a ball carrier.
Mhm.
But I think you're going to see Madison heavy on first and second down, and then Gaskin come in on some third downs, and maybe they find ways to give Ty Chandler a series or two. It's possible they could have all three of those guys active on game day, and they just have a rotation going where maybe Madison gets the bulk of it, Gaskin on a third down or red zone, or must pass situations, and then Ty Chandler comes in for 2-3 series a game too. I could definitely see it being that way.
Yeah, I think it's just important just to have a legitimate back behind Madison, and I think they're fine with Chandler. They don't love Chandler. Dwayne McBride certainly did not live up to expectations in training camp, and he's just most likely to be a practice squad guy. So as much as we talk about running backs, don't overpay them and don't give them big contracts. You do need some like able bodies in the room, and behind Madison, I think it was just they probably underestimated how poor the rest of that group was going to get. So having to get Myles Gaskin in here, I think, is probably going to be a good move just to have an extra body with legitimate NFL experience behind him.
It's the ultimate right now kick the tire position. If Gaskin works, great. If he doesn't, he's gone, and you bring a guy in. Like that's the thing. There's not a lot of positions like this, but I think that position in particular, because how many guys when we're like 5 weeks into a season, how many previously no-name backs are going great guns? Like, it always feels like a couple, right? Like, oh, that guy, I didn't think of that guy in my draft. So it feels like it's, and look, it comes down to one key thing, offensive line. Like, that's a huge part here too.
Yeah.
If the offensive line can do its job, and if guys can get some yards, and that's the thing where I do think Dalvin was to fault. Dalvin lost a lot of yards, and I'm not saying that the line was great, but it felt like that didn't get discussed enough, which was not the, 65-yard touchdown run by Cook, but it was more of the he lost 2, he lost 3. And the one thing that if I was the running backs coach, I would tell my players one thing: don't get cute. I don't need you dancing. I don't need to see your gritty. I don't need to see you in the backfield.
Why can't they gritty?
I'm kidding. But I'm saying I don't need you to dance in the backfield. I don't need you to get cute. I need you to try to follow blocks.
Yeah, I don't get 4 yards. Just need 4 yards. Make it a second and 6.
But that's the thing is there are a few guys. Peterson was among them who at times could basically fly in the face of trying to follow blocks, which he was not great at, and still be a Pro Bowl great player. But the majority of these guys need to be patient, follow their blocks, and if the blocks are there, what you just said, Phil, they'll get 4 to 5 yards. If they're not there, that's a whole different problem, but that's not always necessarily on the back. But don't dance in the backfield with the damn ball trying to say, I can break loose, because the majority of guys are not going to be Adrian Peterson.
Yeah. So this kind of it's reminiscent of like 20 years ago, when this before Dalvin, before Adrian Peterson, after Robert Smith, they had that little 5-year period where you had, like, for sure a couple of years, it was like Michael Bennett,
Ontario Smith,
first round pick, Ontario Smith, and Mo Williams, right? And there was a year where they all three, none of them got 1,000 yards, and there's some injury stuff in there too. But I could see that being the case this year, where like the Vikings leading rusher has 710 yards, but then they've got 3 guys who have at least 300 or 400 yards, and it just becomes a classic running back by committee.
And back then it was a bigger problem. Like, I think back then, because that was still obviously square in the bell cow days, where you're like, man, it'd be nice to have that guy, right?
Yeah.
Now I would say what you just laid out there, Phil, is absolutely fine. So like if Madison rushes for 800 yards and then guys behind him pick up the slack, 2005, I think you're like, okay, that works. It might not be ideal. 2023, I think you're like, yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Yep. And go spend your money elsewhere. Go spend your money on some of the more, premium positions. So, hey, a shout out to our friends at Power Lodge and Miller Marine here too. So, we're definitely still, it's going to be 90 degrees for several days the next couple of weeks. So it's still pontoon season very much. You can get into a Bennington at Power Lodge or Miller Marine, but on the horizon, especially with football season coming up, it is Polaris ATV and snowmobile season. So we're gonna be crossing over at some point here, Judd. We recommend you get into one of those 4 Power Lodge locations: Brainerd, Ramsey, Anemia, Sauk Rapids, and Miller Marine in St. Cloud.
Absolutely. No matter what you choose, here's the best part. You know what it is? It's relaxing, it's fun, it's outdoors. And in this state, we embrace the gorgeous summers and times on the water, and we also embrace times on those frozen lakes with the snowmobiles. So either way, you win and you get a fun day with our friends.
Yes, indeed. Powerlodge.com and millermarine.com to snag some of these fun little trinkets for yourself, for your family. So, all right, that's a wrap on this episode of Purple Daily Vikings Entertainment, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.